forgotten. And we did it time and time again. Right now, we're fighting for something much bigger than a win or championship. But if we learn anything from sports, it's that no matter how far down we may be, we are never too far down to come back.
Hi there, my name is Benjamin Davey and I'm from Neuroscience, and today we're going to talk to you a little bit about a company that has gotten my attention in recent times. And this is a company that exists in the sporting accessory arena, and there's lots of brands in this arena. I mean, for example, you have Under Armour, you have Puma, you have Adidas, but there's one brand that seems to dominate, and that is Nike. And of course, everyone who's watching this video probably knows a little bit about the brand Nike and potentially has quite a positive feeling toward the brand in general. And if that's true, this video might help to explain a little bit further why you might have that feeling towards Nike. Because the question we have to ask ourselves is Nike actually a superior brand in terms of the actual logical basis for the brand, the quality of the products they produce? Is it actually a logical choice to always go for a brand like Nike? And I would suggest that this is probably not the case. If you look at the other brands in this area, they have similar products that provide similar sorts of benefits, and it's hard to make a claim for one product or another on a purely logical, rational criteria. But for some reason, Nike seems to do so well. And I think that this is because Nike has mastered the art of emotional advertising. And let's just talk a little bit about what emotional advertising really entails, because as far as Nike's concerned, I think they take 3 steps that create a very strong and positive association between their brand and some positive experiences that the users have. So firstly, what Nike will do, Nike's not alone in this, a lot of brands will do this, but what they do essentially is they will sponsor a particular team or an event or something like this, and they will put their brand in the center of some event that already naturally evokes a strong and positive emotion for you as the customer. Now, this might be something like they'll sponsor a major football club like FC Barcelona, or maybe they'll sponsor a major basketball team like the Lakers. And when they do this sponsorship deal, they're doing more than just putting that product in front of your eyes. They're actually creating an association between that product between their product and the scene that you're watching at the time. So if that team goes on to win the final, to win a game, to make you feel extreme excitement or perhaps pride in that team, it's not just that team that gets that benefit. Nike or any other sponsor also adopts that benefit as well. And this doesn't happen in a rational, conscious way, because it's actually just happening inside your brain in a rather unconscious way that produces more of a positive emotional inkling towards a brand, as opposed to a conscious, rational feeling that you really like this brand because of the time that your team won the final while wearing their clothing. Let me give you a bit of an example. If you walk into a sports store, you might walk over to one brand and you'll have a look at the clothes and you'll think to yourself, yeah, this is quite nice. From a rational perspective, you'll be thinking, I quite like the material. It looks like this is going to be the clothing that'll be able to help me do whatever I want to do in a sporting context. But when you walk over to a brand like Nike, especially if you happen to support a team that they sponsored or that they used emotional branding to be able to associate themselves with, then as you walk over to that product, even if it was identical to the other products, you just get this positive feeling. You have this feeling that this brand is somehow superior, that you just prefer the products. What's really happening here is this brand has created an emotional association that every time you see it starts to evoke the same emotions that you experience when, for example, watching your team win a final or win a game. And this doesn't happen consciously, as I said. It's more of a feeling that you get. It's more a positive inkling towards the brand. So you look at it and you think to yourself, I really like this brand. This is where it gets really interesting for me though, because it's not conscious, and because we don't actually reflect on why we have this positive association. We just feel slightly more positive towards it. But because we like to think of ourselves as logical people who make logical decisions and aren't just swayed by advertising and those sorts of things, we tend to create some sort of rationalization in our own minds. And this happens automatically without your control. But essentially, looking at the situation, your brain will say, okay, I like this brand better. I like this item of clothing better than the other brand's item of clothing. Why is that? And to be able to justify it to yourself, you might end up coming up with explanations like, I just really prefer the design of this brand, or perhaps it must be a better quality, it's a better overall product. And essentially, what a company like Nike has done is unconsciously swayed your decision and then made you justify it afterwards. This is an incredibly powerful tool for companies, and it's not something new, but it's something that is starting to be understood better and better in scientific communities. And this all happens through the process of what we call associative learning. And essentially the way associative learning works is it creates a physical change in the brain. And when I say physical, I mean on a chemical physical level. But essentially what happens is neurons in your brain all form associations that connect concepts to one another in ways that allow you to think of things as connected in the real world. It's how we learn, essentially. It's how you learn. If you pick up a new piece of information, you learn it through associative networks. And essentially what happens when a brand associates itself with a particular event, a particular feeling that you have when watching a particular event, it creates a link, or more specifically, it creates a stronger link between their brand and that feeling for you. So it's not that the neurons physically move to change places, but instead it just becomes more easy and more likely that a particular set of neurons will fire in a particular situation. And in this case, it's the neurons that allow you to create an emotional reaction, for example, of excitement or pride, will be more likely to fire when you encounter the stimulus that is that brand. So when you walk into a Nike store and see a Nike product, you are actually getting the experience of watching that game in real time, essentially from an emotional perspective. And this is how emotional branding can be incredibly effective. And I think it's something that's really worth thinking about if you're a big company or if you're someone who gets influenced by brands.